The report's co-authors, Diker and Jamie Berk, used what they describe as well-placed intelligence information to find that a major source of funding for SJP, at least $100,000 in 2014, comes from American Muslims for Palestine AMP, whose leaders were previously implicated by the U.S. government from $20,012,011 for financing Hamas. According to the report, many of the leaders and top donors to these organizations were jailed, deported, or investigated for terror connections, and those who remained in the United States, and who are not currently imprisoned, have since migrated to AMP. The report singles out a leader of the SJP funding organization, AMP board member Salah Sarsour, who was imprisoned for 8 months in Israel for using his Milwaukee furniture store to transfer money to Wadala, the leader of Hamas's military wing. Additionally, the report maintains that the individual responsible for preparing the SJP donors' tax returns previously headed a non-profit that was responsible for funding Hamas in the U.S. Aviva Slomich, the international campus director for Camera, a media Watka group devoted to promoting accurate and balanced coverage of Israel and the Middle East, praised the report as a tool for students that needs to be shared widely. This report is something that should be brought to university administrations when there are incidences of aggressive, problematic SJP chapters, and even beforehand, when colleges are thinking of starting an SJP chapter, she said. It will help explain to the administration and professors on campus why SJP is such a problem. According to Slomich, although there are some more moderate SJP members who might be swayed by this report, SJP is a hate group whose goal isn't to promote education about Palestinians, but to make the campus environment hostile for Israel supporters. Even so, Slomich remains optimistic that the influence of SJP on campus could change, as there is a precedent for campus administrations denying SJP's registration due to the anti-Israel group's law-breaking behaviors and neglecting of university policy. We should look to these universities as examples and take the same direction, said Slomich. She explained that SJP's support for terror goes far beyond the funding aspect. To think that SJP doesn't inspire real hate is naive, she said. Students proudly wear t-shirts with terrorists on them like Layla Khaled. There were 2 British students who left school and joined ISIS. There are also examples from Canada and the US. It's a real possibility that if you hear consistent forms of incitement coming from celebrated speakers like Palestinian American activist Linda Sarsour and professors, it's not so shocking that you would be brainwashed to believe this hate. But exposing terror incitement and terror funding, Slomich said, requires being vocal about those issues. If we don't speak up against something that we find is blatantly inaccurate, or even worse, anti-Semitic, there's no reason for us to feel that anybody else will speak up for us, she said, adding that this responsibility extends from students to politicians and school administrations. The JCPA report's policy recommendations similarly suggest that university donors and members of alumni communities can serve as powerful channels for holding SJP chapters accountable by speaking to their university administration about the importance of investigating SJP, to ensure that these organizations are not operating with funding from terror-linked organizations or violating freedom of speech rights of fellow students. It recommends that groups remain vigilant and demand that their campus communities and state governments unmask, expose, investigate, prosecute, and sanction SJP in order to rein in extremist terror supporting and anti-Semitic actions on U.S. campuses.